Alright, good morning. So I have finally got the scopes out and about. The weather has improved here in Cyprus. The sun is out, clear skies. Temperature is risen nicely over the last few days. So it's maybe gone up around 7 degrees C, which is into t-shirt weather, which is great. Winter is over, I think. So I don't know what it is today. I think it's around about, where's my observatory weather station? It's currently 27 degrees C at 10:30 in the morning, which I can't complain about. So here I am on the sun over in America at the moment. They have got a lunar eclipse which is just finishing. We don't get to see it here in Cyprus, just with the rotation, etc. But the sun has got quite a few sunspots have developed over the last few days. I've been tracking it on the Space Weather Live website. So I thought I'd come in this morning, seeing as the sun's out, and have a look and see what's going on. Now I have noticed around the perimeter of the sun there is quite a number of flares, quite large ones, developing. So if I blow out the gain on the scope, we'll be able to see quite a number of large flares coming out of the sun, this perimeter. So these are maybe a good 6 to 8 Earths in length. So they're quite active. I think there was a solar storm yesterday morning, I think it was, according to the Space Weather website, with they should have seen high auroral activity over North America yesterday evening, I believe. So I don't know if anybody has seen that. Let's knock the game back down so I can see the surface. So I'm going to do my usual. We'll start off with a native focal length on the scope, and then I'll probably switch over to either the 2.5 Barlow or the 4 Barlow and get closer in on some of the detail. Now I think I've got the scope dialed in. The scope I'm using is the Lunt LS80MT. It's got the B1800 blocking filter on it, and I think its native focal length is 560mm, which gives me the full disc view in this current configuration. And the pressure tuner, I've given that a tweak and tried to get the most contrast out of the surface detail. So I'll just pop on some false colour. What am I in, a mono 16 mode at the moment? There we go. That false colour to brighten up the screen. Probably increase the exposure a touch if I get the right mouse, just to help pull out some of that detail. Hello, dog. You coming to say hello? Up, up. Are you coming to sunbathe? Yes. Hi there, how are you? Just dropping in by. What you doing, dog? Hello. It's nice and hot in the sun. Weird dark fur. Yes. Computer, do what you're told. Alright, so what we got this morning, where is Space Weather Live? So here's all the sunspot regions that are currently, dog, do you mind? That are currently active, quite a number. 4019 seems to be a high intensity region. So which way am we rotated versus that image? So we've got the two on the right and then the left is the other bunch. So where's my view? Two on the right and the left. So I think these are the, supposed to be the high region here. Is that 4019? Yeah. What we're saying, so for region 41019 has got 16 active sunspots in the cluster. Solar wind is currently moderately high, well there you have it, and slight possibility for aurora to appear at high altitude regions. A little blip of activity around about 7:20 GMT. So we'll see how it behaves today. So I've started off with the scope in its native focal length, so I think that's 560mm, and then I'll probably pop in the 2.5 Barlow and go into some of the more detail, and then potentially even if the seeing conditions aren't too bad at 2.5 times, I will pop in the 4x multiplier and go even further in, but sometimes that can be a bit wiggly with the weather. And we do have quite a number of large flares around the perimeter of the sun, so if I blow out the sun, we'll see them stand out quite nicely against the background of space. Zoom in, should be zooming out. Oh, that's native. So yeah, that's probably about 6 Earths tall, maybe something like that. Wouldn't be far off. So we've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Big one at the bottom left. I'll have to get the big multiplier right in on that one, I think. These things don't disappear very quickly, which is fortunate, so we don't have to rush. This one seems to be quite active as well. Let's bring the gain back down. And we've got quite a lot of filaments running across the surface. There's not too many really long ones apart from that one perhaps at the bottom left. And there seems to be a couple of regions elevated here on the top right. But this is the main region in the middle left. I think that's 4019. Did it say there was 16 sunspots in there? I don't see 16. One, two, three. I don't know how you classify them. There's maybe certainly a handful anyway. Where was that big flare? It's obviously pixelated because I'm zoomed right in on the screen rather than using the optics. And the one at the bottom left. Where are we? Quite a chunky one. So this is using the false colorization option in SharpCap, and I think the focus is dialed in not too bad at all. I did use the focus assistant just initially, and then I just tweaked it slightly to see what happened to the peaks. So if I move this red square, which is the focus region for doing its calculations, and reset this, I can nudge the scope focuser in and out and just see this green square if it rises or falls. So that's falls on a positive. And we'll will get a slight variation. For example, that center one there, that's maybe just down to backlash in the gearing of the focuser. Well, that's improved. Let's go another -5. So 5 steps is tiny amounts, and let's come back down again. So we'll go back another 5. Yeah, you can see how much swing there was there. So it's maybe just down a bit of backlash. I could dial it out by adjusting the parameters, but I think it changes. So it's fine there, I think. That's turned off the false colour. So it's not a bad looking sun today. What's your thoughts? Were you all watching the lunar eclipse on the US? Or North America, I should say. I think there was about a dozen people maybe streaming it this morning. I know Chuck had about 8,000 plus viewers, Nico had about 3,000, and then a few smaller channels, and your usual mix of numbers. Seems to be quite a bit high latency between the live view and the YouTube view. Don't know why, because I've got it set to low. Unless I'm just out of sync now. Too many screens, too many keyboards, too many mice. Warm in here. So it's meant to be clear tonight, so I maybe get the dome opened up. I know there's still a couple of the planets hanging around, so I might get the Edge 11 on the go as well. See if we can tweak the curve slightly and get a bit more of the flare showing. And it's blowing it out way too much. No, there's too much contrast there. Got a slight bit of drift in the scope. It's not polar aligned, it's just dumped on the ground and pointed roughly. So if I turn on the live stacking, I need to turn off all this stuff. Maybe knock the gain down and increase the exposure slightly. This region roughly where my mouse is appears to be brightening up a little bit, I think. There's certainly a lot of activity around that main region. Excuse me. Hay fever season must be back. Alright, good morning, or evening, or wherever you are. Good day. Yeah, that region there's gone a bit quieter now. It's not as bright as it was. I don't think it was due to the curves. No, it's definitely died off. The main region's still looking hot and active. So we've started off with a full disk view, and we'll switch to the Barlow shortly, I think. Hi, good morning. How are you today? Or good evening, wherever you are. Hi there. How are you today? We've got a few lovely view of the sun today. No clouds, very little haze. Alright, good morning or evening. Right, I think I'll go and drop the Barlow into the scope and get us closer. We're obviously at the native focal length at the moment of 560mm, and I've got here, I've got two Barlows, a 2.5x and a 4x, so we'll start with the 2.5x, which is this one, the Celestron Luminos 2.5. I'll pop that into the scope and get closer in. Hope it's clean. So at the moment you can see the full disc view, and if I blow out the gain we'll see all the flares around the outside against the background of space. And we've got quite a number of sunspot regions, so according to Space Weather Live these are all the active regions, the main one being 4019, which has currently got 16 sunspots in it. So if we look at view, I think that is this region here. So I'll put the Barlow in and this will get us in even closer. Hopefully I don't knock out my alignment. Right, that's the Barlow in. Let's just adjust the scope now. I need to increase exposure obviously with the Barlow being in place, and then adjust the focuser. Starting to see the dust bunnies. Let's increase this to 1000. I think I'm going the right way. Hey, where's my exposure? Is way too high. Let's turn off solar colorization for a minute. Back to full frame because I'll be filling up the screen now. I think I'm going the wrong way. Maybe not. Here we go. I think I just passed through focus there. Let's drop this back to 100. but that's looking sharper. Reset the curve. Tweak. Increase the exposure slightly. Or the gain. Go for the gain first. Alright, so that's us now at 2.5 times multiplier on the 560mm scope. This needs to be changed to solar. I've never changed it. There we go. We can see a lot more detail now that we're zoomed in. So I'll blow out the gain and see what these flares look like now. There we go. Hi, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, good evening. Pop a hello in the chat. Let me know where you are so I've got an idea of where I'm talking to and who's all on the go. So these are quite active, or large flares I should say, and there's another big region. Good morning, Craig. Sunny in Edinburgh. Will that make a nice change? Pete said it was raining up in Aberdeenshire last night, or early this morning, while he was watching the eclipse on Chuck's channel. So the sun came out here as well in Cyprus. It's got noticeably warmer over the last few days. I think it's up, according to my weather station, about 7 degrees in the last 2 days. So this morning it is pleasant, what does it say, 27.8 degrees at 11 o'clock in the morning. So we're definitely out of winter and we're into t-shirt weather, which is great because I hated cold. I'm dreading coming back to the UK. So I've got the scope. This is my usual Lunt solar scope, and I've got it on the 2.5 multiplier Barlow, the Celestron Luminos one. And the directions are back to front here. Maybe increase the exposure just a touch and start to blow out that sunspot. And let's pop on the false colour and adjust the curve slightly, I think. There we go, that's better. Although that sunspot's a bit blown out. I think it's just got noticeably brighter in the last few minutes, and that's why it's now showing blowing out, because it wasn't as bad as that earlier on when I was tweaking around. So what day is it? Today's Friday, isn't it? Yeah, so you're working today, Craig? I haven't done a lot of astro at all lately. It's been relatively okay during the day, just broken cloud and that, but in the evening it seems to clear up for a period, and then a couple of hours later it's just clouded out again, or there's certainly a high haze as well that you see. The full moon just blows out the sky as well with that haze. Got time off work day, that's the way to do it. Well, I've been home about a week, so I think I've got another 3 weeks and then back to work again. It'll be certainly a lot hotter in Qatar when I get back there next time. It's been freezing cold and windy and rainy the last 4 weeks I was there. few filaments coming out of that hotspot. See if we can get the focus tighter. It's not looking too bad there. A couple of weeks holiday, excellent. You got any plans? Going to go away anywhere or go away out traipsing around Scotland? Or is it just 2 weeks of chill? Excessive indulgence in all areas. There's that big flare at the bottom left. How's it looking now? Again. Whoa, a bit bright. My retinas. Come on, scope. Move over. I don't know which way I'm going. I'm so far zoomed in. I have to go up to the other corner. Wrong way. That's the way to do it. Relax, get a bit of fresh air, work off the winter cobwebs. I think I'm going to go out on the quad bike sometime in the next couple of weeks. One of the other guys is also back from Qatar. He just lives round the corner, so we go away off into the mountains and the forests on the bikes. In fact, this time I think we're going to go down the south coast and then head up into Aphrodite Hills and away over there. I haven't been down that way for a while. I was up the Asprochremus reservoir and followed the riverbed up into the mountains to Kikos Monastery, I think it's Kikos Monastery, and then down through the forest. It was on a great day last time. It was a bit cold up the hills, it was certainly into single digits. not a bad view with all the active regions. I'll grab that just for the sake of it. Quick capture. The seeing conditions look not too bad. It's not waving around a lot, and I haven't seen any wispy cloud come through, which is good. Focus seems to be holding quite nicely. Anybody else want to say hello? There's a few others lurking in the background, don't be shy. We don't bite much. I get the dogs do, wherever they are. They're wandering around the garden somewhere. I'm surprised I've not heard the neighbours' dogs. I think it's new neighbours moved into the house behind us, and they've got two massive cane corsos, and they bark like crazy when there's somebody in the garden or there's movement. Or if our dogs go up to the fence, they've actually built a second fence to try and separate the dogs a little bit. And they will go at each other through the fence. Fly on the screen. Or is that an ant or a spider? Go away. That filament down the bottom is not moving much, or changing much I should say. I know they don't move very much because it's so bloody big. A few filaments running along the surface, but nothing too massive. I think it was the last live stream I did, there was a filament that ran quite a way across the surface. That sunspot in the middle there, that seems to be forming a few filaments. You've got this nice wavy, let me zoom in, this nice wisp coming out of it now, I think. And there's this double filament down at the bottom here, which is strange. I've never seen two side by side like that. There seems to be a filament arc coming out of this sunspot. It's got a bit wavy, temperatures may be heating up. Let's put on the live auto surface enhancement. What am I doing? 65 FPS at the moment, so let's reset the stack with 2 seconds worth of data. That's way too much. Let's just reset them. Okay. Focus is maybe shifted a little as it's got a bit more hazy. More seeing conditions have got a bit more movement. Where's my camera? Where's it? Drifting off a little bit. Let's move the sun back towards the middle of the optics. Oh, wrong way. This big one in the region on the right, I'm not seeing a lot of activity there. It seems to be pretty dormant. This filament in the middle seems to be getting more prominent, should I say. So, oh. I don't know how it would handle a 4x Barlow today. Let's turn off the solar colorization and invert it just. Didn't want to do that. Let's look at this left hand or right hand region, see if it's doing anything. I don't see any high filaments or anything coming out of it. Let's boost again a bit. No, there's nothing there. Certainly a hot spot and a cold spot, but nothing too dramatic. And a big flare. There she is up there. Focus is shifted slightly. Maybe a little bit of wispy cloud come through. spider again. This double filament in the middle, that region seems to be getting brighter. Let's go right in. This bit here. Yeah, I think the focus is shifting. Gets a bit better. Right, I want to get the sun just centered around about there, and nudge it over a bit so I'm just catching the edge. Let me go back a bit, I think. I'll grab that. So it stops moving, there we go. And then I'll take another one at the top. Nothing up there. Alright, well, I'll risk popping the 4x in, I think. See how it looks. I'll be back in a minute. I'll be back in a minute. grab a bag of prawn cocktail flavour crisps and a can of juice. Have I missed anything? No drama. Finish these and then I'll pop the 4X Barlow in. I've also got a McVitie's Gold Bar. They've got noticeably smaller over the years, unless it's me, it's just got bigger. So if there's anybody lurking in the background, don't be shy, come and say hello, let us know where you're from. See the chat. Craig said hello this morning, fellow Scotsman from Edinburgh. Enjoying his well-earned time off from work. Burnt but crisp, looks rather fusty. So that's the garden for the bugs. Alright, so for those that have just joined, maybe missed it earlier on, I'm currently imaging with the telescope you can see in the top left hand corner. So that's a live view of the telescope, and that is the Lunt Solar Systems LS80MT modular telescope with its B1800 blocking filter in it. So it's a hydrogen alpha filter, sorry, hydrogen alpha telescope. The telescope also has a pressure tuner module in it, so it's effectively a pressurized chamber that you can adjust the pressure in, and that gives you a tighter band pass on the filter elements and gets it down to, I think, 0.7 angstroms, which is 0.007 nanometers, I think, of band pass. And by adjusting that, you can get better contrast on the surface detail of the sun in this case. And you can also double stack the pressure tuners, although I haven't got a second double stack unit. I think they're currently retailing around $2,500 to $3,000. but that will further double the bandpass tolerance, so it'll take it to 0.49 angstroms. So the telescope itself, excuse me eating with a biscuit. So the telescope itself has got a native focal length, I think it's 560mm, and I've also got a Celestron Luminos 2.5 multiplying Barlow in the optical train, so you can do the maths. 560mm times 2.5 will give you the focal length. And I'm imaging with a mono camera, so an ASI 174mm by ZWO, and the software here is SharpCap Pro. Brilliant piece of software for doing all sorts of planetary, lunar, solar and night photography. So it controls all the mount movement. So the mount is a Celestron CGX. You can control the focuser, which is a ZWO electronic assisted focus module, which bolts onto the telescope, and can manually adjust or remotely adjust the focus module. And then SharpCap's got some facilities to colorize the image. So being a mono camera, it's applied this solar colorization filter effect to give you a representation in some form of color. Helps to show out some of the detail. But when I do an image capture, so for solar imaging we capture a video which is currently capturing around 65 frames a second. So we'll do a short 30-second capture. We then take that image, or take that video file, and process all the frames within it to get a static image. And then you can take that stacked image and apply all your after post processing, so your sharpening, your color balance, all these sorts of things. But when you do a capture, it takes the raw data from the camera, so it doesn't apply any of the changes you've made on the screen, which is just a local representation. So the colorization filter won't change, the brightness doesn't change. It'll take whatever it gets raw out of the camera at its exposure rate and its gain setting, and that's it. And then I've also got another Barlow, which is this one here, Tele Vue 4X Powermate, and I can take the 2.5 Barlow off the telescope and put this one in its place, and that will obviously give you 4 times 560 or 2240 if my maths has worked out correctly in my head. And you can also then double stack the Barlows, so I can put this onto the telescope, then put the Barlow into here, and then the camera into the back of that, so that will effectively give you the 560 times 4 times 2.5 magnification. And as you do that, you have to increase the exposure as all the light gets cut out, but it'll take you right in. So if I was to put the 4x multiplier on here, without the 2.5 it would probably, let me see, probably look something like that. And then obviously if I then further go in, you'll be right in on a sunspot with both the Barlows. But this is just an optical, sorry, this is just a digital zoom on the software. So without the Barlows, that telescope that I've got will give me a full disc view using that camera. So it'll fill a full frame with a black region around about it. And then with the 2.5, obviously we're zoomed in, and it just takes you slightly beyond the size of the imaging. Now I did think about getting a different solar camera. I think it's got a square sensor, I can't remember, so you don't get this 16:9 view. And some of the other tools you've got in SharpCap, we've got Surface Enhancement. So what it will do is effectively a live stack of the frames coming off the camera. So if I open up the module, you can take this red box, move it where you want to be the focus area or the region of interest. So if I take that sunspot for example, pull that red box down. Where's my red box gone? Onto the sunspot area. If I hit reset stack, as you can see you've got 116 frames. It's selected for the stack length. That was just an arbitrary number when I dragged the slider. So let me set, say, 65, 64. Oh. So that's 64 frames. So every 64 frames it will process, do a stack, apply the sharpening. So for example, if I turn the sharpening off, that's what it looks like without the sharpening. And I can click auto sharpen just to get a rough, or you can actually go in and adjust all the various wavelets to get it how you want it. You can also set up frame filtering, so it will analyse all the frames that's coming in, compare them against each other, compare them against a threshold, and it calculates, and it will reject any frames that are maybe fuzzy due to movement in the atmosphere, and it'll only stack the best. Here we've got 11%, set that to 10, it doesn't really matter. And you can adjust these parameters as well to get the best looking static image, and it stops you having to stare at all the movement in the background. Software will also do automatic time lapsing, so you might want to take a 30-second or a 1-minute snapshot repeatedly, so that you can then take all the individual stacked images that you create, put them together and create a time lapse for the final video. Stabilizing, auto capture, so again this is a time travel tool, so it's a really powerful little bit of software. It's been done really well. It's got a few quirks now and again, but on the whole I think it's pretty good. In fact, it's very good. I like to be able to change for the mouse wheel to zoom instead of scrolling. The other thing I would like it to do, I'll maybe drop the creator, so when, for example, if I'm in this view, so this is the live stacked view, I'd like to be able to position this view window in the middle. So for example, when I'm streaming, that view window would be in the center here, and you wouldn't be overlaying my graphics on top of the image there. Now I could close the window and drag it over, but that sort of defeats the purpose of having everything visible. So that's what a live stacked image looks like with a 64 frame sampling window. So if I turn off the live stacking, got the tools live shoulder. Another feature within the SharpCap software is automatic focusing. So again, what you do is you set up a region of interest using the red box that will appear just in a second when I turn the feature on. And I use the focus assist, contrast edge detection. So here's the red box, which is the region of interest, which it'll use for its calculations. So what I try to do is find a nice area that has already got some detail in it. For example, they've got a black sunspot and a white hot region, and then obviously the surface detail around about it, and it's calculating a score. I don't know how it determines the score, and you can play around with the settings to get it to be able to pull out suitable data to do the calculations on. So for example, the noise reduction and the black threshold for the black point, and then you can run a refocus or a directional focus. So sometimes when you're first setting it up, it doesn't know which way it needs to go. So for example, here I can do a positive scan, and what it's doing, it's increasing this focus step size outwards, and it'll build a curve. As you can see, these green triangles are the reference points that it's calculating at each of the focus points, and it'll build a curve, and then it'll use that to determine where it thinks the best midpoint is to give you the sharpest detail. So you can see this one's running away in the wrong direction, so if I stop that and go negative this time, you can also adjust the step size, so you depending on what which telescope you're using with the focus motor, or which motor focuser you're using, because there's different brands, your step size may be different. So you can change the gap between its sample points to try and build this curve. You can also adjust the I've forgotten the word I'm looking for. Oh, it's completely gone out of my head. That's old age for you. So basically, with your meshing in your gears, obviously there's a little bit of there, so you've got a bit of slack. So you can adjust how that gap looks like as well, and it'll compensate for that backlash. That's the word I was looking for. And there you can see it's created a curve. It's found its midpoint and it's moved the focuser back. So what I'll tend to do is just, if it looks alright on screen, I'll take that midpoint. If I'm not 100% convinced, you can then, in my focus controls here on the right hand side, the ZWO focuser number 1. Here's the step size for the steps. So I've got a large step size of 100, a small step size of 5. So you can adjust these to suit your scope and setup and how much movement you want, and then I'll just nudge in and out and just see how it compares when it does the sample. So there I've nudged negative, and you can see the red triangles appeared for that sample point, which is good. But again, it's constantly sampling, so anything in the atmosphere may be affecting the contrast of that image. Clouds going past, for example. So it's just a fine balance, and it can change quite dramatically depending on what the conditions are like. So obviously it's trying to sample a moving image there, so that may have a bearing on things as well, on how it does its calculations. But it's looking pretty sharp at that point there. So I can turn back on solar colorization. There we can see a relatively good live view as it stands at the moment. scroll the telescope. Let's have a look at this other sunspot region here. And we'll zoom in, digitally zoom in, not optically. So you've got the cold sunspots, these hot plage regions, we've got some surface filaments. You can see this filament appears to be coming out and following the arc of the magnetic field around that region of the sun. So it's sweeping around like that. And sometimes you can get really good filaments that will almost complete their full arc and come back in on the surface around sunspot regions. So I go back to 100%, or auto I should say, to fill the field. Now if I move the telescope in the opposite direction, there is some large flares coming out the top right of the sun, so let's zoom in on that area. So that's me at 100% zoom. If I turn up the gain, and which will effectively overexpose the sun, it brings the detail out against the contrast of the back dark sky or the space, and you'll see the flares will start to show themselves. The prominence is there. So again, it's just finding that right balance there, and you can tweak with the curves as well. So it's just a constant juggling act between exposure, gain, the curves, on how to pull out the best detail. Now you could obviously take multiple captures, one with the sun normal and then one with the overexposed to get the prominences, and then you can make a composite pulling in those frames and combine them. But the live stacking tool does a not too bad a job. So if I turn this back to normal, it's not the one I wanted to adjust, as it throwing everything out. Let's put it back to around about 7. Pull the gain back down so the sun looks relatively normal. Let's move it over a bit. Other way. There we go. If I turn on the live stacking now, live solar lunar planetary stacking and enhancement, you can see it's done a pretty good job of pulling out not just the surface detail of the sun, but also the prominences in the background. Wonderful. Right, let me nudge up the gain a bit and pull out the surface detail of the sun and adjust the curve. Okay. Capture that region there. Alright, so what I can do now is go and stick the 4x Barlow. So this is Tele Vue Powermate, as I mentioned. I'll put that in the optical train, which will take us in 2,240mm, I think. And we'll see how it looks with the seeing conditions. Alright, so that is now the 4x Barlow in place. So as I said earlier, I have to increase the exposure again, and I'll have to adjust the zoom, sorry, the focus. It's not quite there. Let's see, I'll set this to 1000. See what it does. Never know if I'm going the right way or not. I might be going the wrong way. Yeah, I think I'm going the wrong way. Let's go 20,000. There we go, so it was around about 15,000, so let's go back in. So we're not far off there. Do a little bit more in the gain. We'll do the autofocus. So let's pull this sunspot region here. And we'll do positive first. Okay, so that's falling, so let's go negative. Oh, the mount's crashed, so we need to do a meridian flip. So let's stop this focus assist. So we go over to CPWI, select the sun again, and do go to, and you'll see in the live feed of the camera the telescope will be turning direction, and then we'll have to find it again. So the green triangle, obviously the scope's not been aligned, so it doesn't really know where it is. All it did, it's got a rough idea of, based on where I've pointed the telescope. I did aligned the sun up into the center and added it into the model, so it won't be far away when it comes back to the same point. But without being properly aligned to multiple points in the sky, it can be a bit hit and miss. So there we've gone back to where it thinks the sun is, and obviously we can see nothing. So what I do is I'll wind up the gain, and you'll see on the display histogram sketch this white curve. So that's the bright of the sun. And what I'll do now is I'll move the scope until that comes into the center. Let's change the speed to 1/4 degree per second. I'm not getting any movement. Oh, that's the wrong button. So I'm not seeing any change there yet. Maybe increase the speed a bit more. 1 degree per second. Oh, we're getting a bit of movement now, and it's going away again, you see. So I've overshot where its peak was in the center, so I'll get it back to roughly where it thinks it was, around about there, and then I'll move the other axis. So that's moving it away from the sun, and we're moving towards the sun now, and there's the sun coming into view. So I can turn the gain down. Slow down the telescope again, back to 8x. And we're back on the sun, but in the other orientation. Let's turn the gain down. Now we're still managing 65 frames a second, even though we've increased the exposure. Let's adjust the focus, I think. So you can see there's a bit of dust on the optic somewhere. You can see this grey splodge doesn't move when I move the telescope. So one thing I can do is take a flat frame to try and compensate for that. But to do that I need to go on to an area of pretty neutral sun, which I probably haven't got enough to do with this. I just don't want to be on the edge, so there's no real area I can do a flat frame without doing external light source. I can defocus the sun. It'll get me, well, we can try it. So if I defocus the sun, say 50,000, so sorry, increase the steps 5,000. You can see the sun itself goes effectively away. So you can see all the dust that's on the optics. Let's add another 1,000. So we want to try and get a pretty even flat field across the sun somewhere. top left's a bit no use, but we'll try that. And what I can do is flat frame wherever that is again. There we go. Capture flat. And it'll create a flat frame of the image. And click start. So you can see the dust spots on the lens or in the optical train somewhere. So it's captured that flat frame, and if you look in the pre-processing box on the right hand side, it's added that flat frame that it's just captured to that. So now if I go back to the sun and refocus it again, so that's, I added 5,000 and then 1,000, so 6,000 negative. We're not far off there. Let's focus assist, edge detection. Let's pull that sunspot area there, and let's do negative. Okay, that's going down, so let's do positive. It's struggling to build a curve, so I must have been in a weird spot on the scope. I'll leave it to run a couple of points and then I'll stop it and go the other way. Okay, let's go. Negative. Okay, so it's starting to produce a curve this time. Oh, that's my chair, must have semi-locked. So the red triangles are higher, so that's, it looks like it's just gone over the top of its peak. So once it's done a few more points, it'll move the focuser back to that calculated midpoint. And you'll see it draw a line on the curve. There we go. And it's calculated the midpoint. Just another couple of points and it's gone back to the midpoint. There we go. So we're not far off focus there. Now I could obviously then nudge it plus and minus just to see what it does. That's creeping up there, so I think I'll leave it where it is at the moment. And there we are back on the sun, fully focused, and we'll put on false colour. There you have it, sunspots. Alright, so if I move the scope, let's go back to, that'll be the bottom left now that we've done the meridian flip. Oh, alright. So this was where the big flares were, so if I turn on the surface stacking enhancement, and we'll move the scope over, other way. Reset the stack. And we want to go down. No, that's going up. Zoom in on that. And you can see this flare here. And I want the other one, I can't remember which direction it was. There it is over there, so we're going to keep going up just a bit. Okay, that's not bad there. Turn off the live stack. So we've got these two flares here, another big one on the surface, smaller one there, a sunspot in that region. Very good. So if we go and find, what region number was it again? 4019. Which I think is this one. Oh, wrong way. I think it's this top right one, this 4019. Zoom 150. You can see how much atmospheric disturbance there is, the way it's wiggling around. So the seeing conditions are not too bad considering, but we've got filament coming out of here, this region. Obviously a sunspot. Some few filaments coming out of that area. In the middle we've also got some filaments there. So almost a, well, it looks like a full arc filament running around here where the mouse is. A big strong filament arcing out of this sunspot. Let's increase the gain slightly. Oh. Blowing that out way too much. Still too high. this down to 100 frames, I think. There we have it. So before and after, that's before any sharpening applied, and then this is with an auto sharpen applied. And then we can adjust any corona boost. Yeah, so the sun's not too bad today. We're a little bit active, or a little bit of activity, I should say. We might get away with putting both Barlows in, but there's a little bit of movement there. It might be a bit excessive. There's a sunspot here on the left. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And what was the other one? It was the opposite corner, wasn't it? The other flare. Oh, there's one there. don't think there was any around this side. That top quarter, it's got nothing there. So there we have it, that's what's going on the Sun's surface today. Do you want to try double stacking the Barlows and see how much closer the detail is, or how, if it's too much atmospheric disturbance? See if we can really zoom in on some of these sunspots. There's no harm in trying, is there? It's getting warm in this observatory, I know that much. .3 outside. Alright, good day to those that have just joined in. I see there's a few appearing. I don't know if there's another stream just finished somewhere, everybody's jumped on here. So say hello. We're live on the Sun with the Lunt LS80MT, and I've got a 4x Barlow in the optical frame, taking it up to 2240mm focal length. And we've just been touring around the surface, looking at the flares, the filaments, plages, sunspots, prominences around the disk. Yeah, there's quite a few things. So this is what it says on Space Weather Live, where all the activity is. And the other website that I use is called helioviewer.org, and that's pulling the data in from the various satellites, and it also gives you this representation of what the Sun, the Earth is relative. Hello Ian, how are you doing? No, I might stream this afternoon from the other channel on the sim rig. I was tempted to do that. I meant to do it the last couple of days and didn't. I did a few live races on LNMU, did a community event on Tuesday night. That was good fun. That was round Portugal. I can't remember the name of the track. What you been up to, Loon? How's Stonehaven? Craig in Edinburgh says it's sunny there today. How's Stonehaven? I think I'm going to capture that region as well. Alright, that's that captured. Let's turn on the live enhancement. See if we can get the flare in as well. Squeeze that in. That was down here somewhere. I want to keep that sunspot though. Just captured it. Do another capture, see if we can get that flare. I'll be back in a second. Right, I'll maybe just quickly try putting both Barlows on and see how it looks. So that'll take it up to the 560 times 2.5 times 4. Where's the other Barlow? It must be outside. Let me go and install it. Right, that's both Barlows on, so again we'll need to increase the exposure. Focus is not far off. Take this down to 500 and do positive. It's the wrong way. Negative. I've maybe just gone through focus. Let's go at 100 on the large step. Showing up more of the dust bunnies. I could redo the flat frame. In fact, we'll do that. So let's take this up to 5,000 positive. You can see all the dust on that optics. And then we'll go up to capture, flat, start, okay, that's been applied, and 5,000 negative, that's not far off focus there, given the conditions. There we go. Gain's maybe a touch high. Right. Let's turn on the auto surface enhancement. Oh, it looks almost like a smiley face with a black eye. Edit tools enhancement. Yeah, it's maybe just a little bit too much disturbance. We increase this number and grab more in this section. So that's every, what we're doing, 17 frames a second. So let's do this 150, that's every 3 seconds approximately. Leave it to do its thing. Maybe increase the gain a touch. Reset the stack. Yeah, it's not a bad sunspot. Right, now because we're so zoomed in, I don't know where I am relative to everything else. So let's increase the speed slightly on the scope, make it easier to move around. So that was that region at the far side of the sun. Now the flare's down here somewhere. I think this is there, and down a bit. There it is. I think that was the highest sunspot. It's blown out this bottom left hand corner due to the flat frame. So I could try taking it again, add 5000 positive. Let's remove that flat frame. There we can see all the dust bunnies. Capture flat. Start. Okay, that's it, applied that. Turn on the colour and zoom back in again, 5000. There we go. I don't want to gain too high because it starts to blow out the bright spots on the surface. Let's capture that sunspot. Let's see if we find the other big one. Oh, wrong way. Right, this one. The focus is out a bit there, I think. So it got a little bit more turbulent. Yeah, I think we're starting to struggle with the atmospheric conditions, it's getting a little bit hard to set focus. It's just a bit right, that center core. I'll grab it anyway, see what it comes out with. I wonder if I can get that smiley face and that filament. Let's turn the speed down a notch. Something like there. Let's capture that. I'm here, Ian. What you saying? My mic's on. Did you lose me for a bit? Got a funny red spider crawling up my laptop screen. Still alive. Outside. Right, so that's me captured all those sunspots. Don't think there's any more down the bottom. Oh, there's these two. I wonder if I get them both in the same frame. Oh, and that big wispy bit. It's just the brightness. And again, I should see it. Focus is drifting so quick. I need more frames and a faster camera. Blowing out that bit there, I don't want that. I'll capture it anyway. Alright, so once this is captured, I will return the scope back to its native focal length, which will give me a full disc view, and then we'll call it quit soon, because I want to go racing. Right, so before I change the scope, I'll knock the exposure right down, otherwise it will burn out your retinas when it comes back in. Right, 2 secs. Right, now sort the focus out. God, it's still bright, gain's right up, that's why. And focus, so we need to go negative, I think it is. Or I could have been wrong. Positive. Positive. Just remove that flat frame. It's showing up all the dust bunnies. Oh, there we go. Right, so we've gone through focus there. Back out the other side again. Knock this back to 500. Now we'll go 100. They're still too bright. Reset the curve and bring the scope back into the center of the optics, or the sun into the center, I should say, and remove the flat frame. Zoom in. Still not focused. Tools, focus assistant, edge detection. Let's take this region up here. Reset, and we'll go positive. Hello, lizard. Okay, it's still rising. There's a bit of an outlier there, I don't know what happened there. Doesn't know what it's doing. Okay, it is focused, I think. And if we zoom to 150, let me adjust the brightness and the curve. It's too bright. Colorization on, and auto zoom. Let's shrink the region of interest. Let's just scope over. And there we have the full disc of the sun. Voila! And if we ramp up the gain, we'll be able to see the flares on the outside, prominences. There we have it. So I think that wraps up today's live sun. Okie dokie folks, I think that'll wrap up things for the day. What's that been? I've lost track of how long I've been on for. 2.5 hours. So I'll bring the stream to a close. Thank you very much for dropping in by. I will likely go on to my other channel shortly, depending on what I'm like when I get inside. And live stream on Is Dave Gaming. We'll probably go racing on Le Mans Ultimate or Assetto Corsa Evo, no, Assetto Corsa Competizione, and see what live events are on, the live races online are, depending on their schedule. Failing that, I've still got to beat my Nürburgring time. I need to get down to 2 consecutive laps, less than 8 minutes 37 I think it is, for the track permit for LFM. So I think I need to do that as well. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for coming in by. Don't forget to hit that magic buttons, and we will see you around sometime. So take care for the time being. Thank you again and have a good day.